going on, everyone? So I want to come on here to give you guys a look into my testimony and how I got to where I am now. With everything going on in my life lately, and with my injury sidelining me, I've had some time to reflect and just think on how blessed I am to be in the opportunity and get to be given the opportunities that I'm given now. And I've just had time to reflect on how I got to where I am now, and I wanted to come on here and share it with all of you guys. So just to give you guys some maybe extra motivation if you need it, or just give you a look into not everyone grows up in the same way, not everyone experiences the same things, but everyone has an opportunity to be brought to Jesus and be brought to the foot of the cross. So we can just start right from the beginning. I was born in Chicago, a little outside of Chicago, in the suburbs. And around 1 years old, my parents got divorced, and so it's all I've really ever known. I never treated it as a bad thing. I just had two families, and so I had two separate sides. My mom's side, I wasn't, going to church or anything like that. My dad's side, when I was there on the weekends, I would go to church. I would go to Catholic church. I was baptized Catholic as a baby, and so that was kind of just the life I knew when I was younger, up until from when I can remember to 12, like that was just life. I'd be with my mom during the weeks, go to school, and then every other weekend I'd be with my dad and that family, and that was just life. But when I was a kid, I would say that I didn't, you know, church when I would go was just a chore to me almost. It was I'd be dragged to going. Um, it was just like most kids, it was just boring. Like you didn't really want to be there. I didn't have a relationship with God at all. I didn't really know him at all. I didn't really know much about anything, to be honest. And then as I progressed further in my life, I, you know, played sports my whole life and everything like that. And that was kind of my identity up until honestly recently, like when I battled with that all the way up until till college even. And so sports was just my identity from when I could play at 6 years old. Started playing football all the way up until till college. So moving forward till like middle school, I was always a good student. Uh, good grades through elementary school. Middle school was super hard, and I wish now, I would have had my trust in God and my faith in God and had a relationship with Him, because it would have, brought me out of those hard times. But I didn't, and so that was hard, and I didn't really have anything to fulfill me in that time. Um, and my testimony really gets going more towards where I am now. So going even through high school, still didn't have that, and I would have always said I was a believer, right? I would have always said I was a Christian. I would have put that label on myself. I would have, told people that. I always did believe in God, and that was always the thing. But I never had a relationship with Him. Didn't really know Him, and so then we moved towards high school. Freshman year, COVID hit, so I lost that, and that was an interesting time as well. Um, and then around my junior year, I would say, once I got my license and I could, drive and make decisions on my own, I started seeing and really spending a lot of time with my dad's parents, so my grandparents on my dad's side. And they are big believers, very deep in their faith, very firmly rooted in their faith. And they, you know, pushed me and urged me to make that decision on my own. And so my junior year, or actually my junior year summer, right heading into to senior year fall, I was making my decisions on college, where I was going to commit, and I had a visit to go to Queens, and my grandpa took me. I didn't have anyone else that could take me. It was like kind of short notice, and I needed to go on this visit, and I didn't have anyone that could take me, and so I asked my grandpa, and he said yes. And now that I look back on it, actually, it's just so crazy how that all worked out, because it was such a blessing that he did take me. And we drove, so it was, a 12, 13 hour car ride. And he just kept, urging me and telling me like to to find that relationship for myself with God, and to really, he just pushed me to do that. And that's something that always stuck with me. So, going home then after my visit, and I actually committed that weekend to go to Queens because it just felt like the right place. And I that moment when in that car ride when he spoke to me like that, that is what started everything for me. I got my first like personal Bible on my own and started reading on my own, and obviously in the beginning it wasn't super consistent, and I was still learning and I was still new, and for me it wasn't like an immediate click, like, oh, this guy's saved for sure, and he's on fire. No, it took some time. The first like year after that, it was still you know not my first priority, I would say. But like that was the start for me. And then so going into senior year of high school, kind of the same thing. Just ready to go to school, ready to leave to go to college. And then when everything kind of really started for me was my freshman year of college. And so it was my freshman year fall was probably the hardest like few months. That first semester was probably the hardest few months of my life. I got to school and the first month was okay. And then right around like September, October came around, and I was like this at this point I was, pretty, not, I wouldn't say deep in my faith yet, but I was there. I was reading my Bible. I was, going to church here and there, doing stuff like that. Felt like I had a relationship with God. Obviously, now that I look back on it, not to the extent that I do now, but at that time I would have said I did. But so that fall, I get called one day, one night, and my mom on the phone tells me that my uncle took his own life. And so that hit me super hard just because, my stepdad and him were extremely close friends all the way growing up. And like, I didn't know how this was going to affect him. I grew up with him as my uncle. We used to, ride dirt bikes and hang out. And so that was a hard thing to hear of like, wow, that really happened. And like, his daughter now doesn't have a dad, and so that was super hard, and it was something that I didn't see coming, and it hit me hard, and that alone was enough to kind of shake me. And then so I went home, went to the funeral, and and then I came back, and so I was missing a good amount of practice as a freshman, which like you really don't want to because you don't really know how to be a college athlete yet, and so you're losing that time. And then I get back to college, come back to school, back to campus after the funeral. And the day I get back from the funeral, my mom calls me again and tells me that my grandma passed away, my great grandma. And so it was like, well, like I just got back from a funeral and I'm gonna have to leave to go right back to another one. And then I was missing more time, which is making it even harder. And so like, and I was battling with the injury at the same time. So like this whole all these things that were just constantly tearing me down and bringing me to my lowest point where I didn't know where to go. It all brought me to the foot of Jesus. And now that I look back on it, I'm so thankful that I was able to be brought to that point. But in the moment, it was terrible, and I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of broken and just in sorrow and sadness, and I didn't know where to go. And then it kind of all clicked in that moment, like nothing else in this world is going to fulfill you. Nothing else in this world is going to bring you back to peace and happiness. Nothing's going to save you. Nothing in this world can give you. And I was trying like I was trying the alcohol to help save me. I was trying to go out with friends to help bring me back to the happiness and peace. And like, yeah, it may help you that night to be happy, but like that was never fulfilling me, and I would just wake up and feel terrible about myself after. And I was still living in these sinful ways that I thought were going to help me in the moment, but they didn't at all, and all it did was just bring me farther down. And so but like now that I look back on it, I needed all that, and I'm happy that that happened because that ultimately that brought me to the foot of cross, to the foot of the cross, and that was what brought me to the foot of Jesus. And I'm so grateful for that now. But looking back on it, and when I was in that moment, it was very hard. But it clicked in my mind like I need to find God now, and I need to find a relationship with Him. And so that's what I did. I started going to, we have an organization called Athletes in Action here on campus, and I started attending that regularly. They're large groups. Started attending my team Bible study regularly, and which I was all semester, but now I really started investing in it more and attending it more, and really putting myself into it more, and reading my Bible more, and praying more, asking God, give me your guidance, help me find you, show me your face, things like that. And ever since then, my life has completely changed. And when I look back on it, it's like I don't even know that person or who that person was before. And again, I needed all that, and I needed that person to bring me to the foot of the cross. And I'm so grateful that it did happen like that. But it's like that person, like, you truly, when it says you were born again, like, that is completely true. And you are literally born again. Like, I am a new person than I was before. And so carrying on from that spring season, my freshman year, like, I started almost every game, had a good season, but lacrosse was still my identity for sure. And I was still, putting all my eggs into lacrosse, and putting it almost, I was treating lacrosse as a god still. And like kind of like parallel with, like, I wasn't giving everything to God yet. And I had an okay season for a freshman's terms. I played okay. But it still, I obviously wasn't fulfilling, and I didn't feel good about it ever. And I always thought I could have done more, thought I could have been better, which I could have, but you know, that's just how you feel. And then it kind of, my sophomore year was when things took off. I got really close with two guys on the team here, and who were big believers and were also with me in all the Bible studies and AIA and everything like that. And I got really close with them. And one of them was my roommate last year. One of them was my roommate this year. But we got close, and it was, we really helped motivate each other and hold each other accountable. So my sophomore fall semester now is where we are. And at this point, I was still kind of, living in those worldly habits. I wasn't really drinking anymore, but it would happen on occasion, like maybe 3 weekends out of the semester. But it was still, and I was still living in those worldly, like, the way I was talking was still worldly. The way that I operated throughout my daily life was still worldly for what me looking back on it. But in the moment, obviously, it wasn't as apparent to me. But I truly did have a relationship with God now. And it was my own relationship. And I was going to church because I wanted to go and things like that. And then it all started, elevating into the spring semester of my sophomore year. And it just kept, increasing. My faith kept increasing. It was getting deeper and more meaningful. And I decided I got pushed by the person who runs AIA at my school, to go to the camp called Ultimate Training Camp, which I promote all the time on here. But that going to that camp was what truly changed my life, and I will 100% say that. It was a week long camp of all college athletes who all were believers, and it was just, it was a week long camp that taught us how to take sport, or take our identity out of our sport, take sport out of our identity, and put it in God, and how to play for God, and how to live for God, and not, play for yourself, live for yourself, live for your sport, things like that. And that camp changed my life. I went with my now roommate, my best friend, and we just got super close from that. And it made our relationship super close and super tight. And I met so many amazing people. And another thing that I learned from that was just how important community is, and surrounding yourself constantly with like-minded people and believers who are going to point you to the cross. And it is just amazing how easy it is to follow God when all you have around you is people who are trying to do the same thing. And obviously, when I went home, it's a lot harder to do that. You're not surrounded by all those people all the time, especially in college. You're surrounded by a lot of worldly things. So it's a lot harder, but like, you can build that community for yourself, and you can find those people, and find that area to put yourself in. But yeah, that week changed my life, and that was like the moment where, like, since then it's been on fire for the Lord. And everything that I do now, like, I can truthfully say is for God, and my identity is no longer in my sport. And, the biggest evidence of that for me was right now with this injury. It's like sport got taken away from me, and literally, like, one wrong step, and all sport got taken away from me and I can't run for the next 6 months. So, but realizing now that like I'm content in this and like I trust that this is God's plan and like there's a reason for this and I'm definitely gonna get stuff out of this and the Lord is gonna use this. Like I know that for sure. So, it doesn't worry me, it doesn't trouble me that, I'm gonna have to go through something new, something that I haven't gone through before. But so yeah, that week and then that summer, me and Ryan started the channel and just me and him getting closer and closer with each other and in just our faith overall. And so we started the channel where we send the daily verses and daily messages every day. And that's been great. It just gives us a way to, stay in the word every day, stay consistent, and also, promote it to other people and get other people a message in the morning that, connects them with God right away too. And then we get here and I was, oh, also I forgot to say, my sophomore, freshman to sophomore summer, I got baptized. Totally forgot that. That's a huge step. But yeah, I got baptized. And then, yeah, that sophomore year when I was like, definitely had a relationship with God, definitely like knew all that, but still kind of living for the world. And then junior year, now I would say like this is by far the closest I've ever been with God, the best my relationship with God has ever been. And now I can see like the worldly things that I've cut out. Like I'm not doing any of that stuff anymore that I thought would fulfill me before because I know now that the only thing that's going to fulfill me is God. And it's just been such a blessing to be able to look back and see the way that God has changed my life and the way that he's just turned me into something so much better that glorifies him now and that can point other people to the cross. And I'm just want to tell you guys like if you feel like you're struggling and you feel like you need something to lean on and you need something to fulfill you, like I'm telling you, if you put your 100% trust and your 100% faith in God and you lean on his understanding and not your own understanding and walk that straight path, like things are gonna get better. Your life is gonna be more peaceful. And I'm not saying like you won't experience pain anymore because that's gonna happen. Like that's always going to happen, but you'll have the faith and courage to know that it's not going to be wasted and to know that your path is the good path and the path that God wants you to be on. And he does good for all those that love him. Romans 8:28 tells us that. And so we just have that peace of mind and comfort of knowing that God's not going to waste any of our suffering and he's going to use it for good. And so that kind of gets to where I'm at now where it's just amazing, and I can't put it in any other words, but it's just truly amazing, and I've just met and I have such great relationships now with people that, I didn't before, and it has truly just brought so much peace in my life, and I used to struggle with anxiety bad. I used to, get worried about the smallest things and be super anxious about small things every day, and I struggle with anxiety every day, and it's like I don't anymore. Like I don't struggle with anxiety anymore, and I give all of that to God, and I'm truly blessed to be able to have a relationship with Him like I do, and again, like I just have so much peace now, and so yeah, that kind of wraps up my testimony and to where I'm at now. But I definitely want to say like I still have plenty of room to grow. I have so much more that I can learn, and I'm no, by no means perfect. I still struggle with plenty of things, just different. It just looks different for me now. But I'm just so blessed to have the opportunity and to be in the area that I am now. But for anyone watching this that is close to putting their full trust in God and just needs a little extra push like this, let this be the sign that you're looking for, where God's telling you like put your full trust in me and submit all to me, and he will make your path straight. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching, and make sure you guys tune into the next videos.